Bengaluru. And we'll tell you why Rajdeep Singh finds himself in an unfortunate controversy. All that and much more on the news today.
Presented by Aditya Birla Capital. Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Co-presented by JK Pancherghat Tire. Ab hawa nahi niklegi. In association with Neom, the line new wonders for the world.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today. This is your primetime destination. Newsmakers, talking points this Monday night. The big talking point, one night of heavy rain, but Bengaluru has sunk. Whatever happened to India's IT capital, that it should turn into a river. Who will reboot India's IT city? That's our top talking point. Also, remembering Cyrus Mistry. We'll have close aides of him speaking about the man whose death has shaken Mumbai. We'll ask the question, are our highways accident prone? All that and much more coming up. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. Streets overflowing, cars washed away, boats on the road. Bangalore's worst nightmare comes true as floodwaters expose its civic mess. Drinking water supply hit in large parts of the city. The IT sector claims they've lost hundreds of crores in a single day. Liz Truss defeats Rishi Sunak to become UK Prime Minister, third woman Prime Minister to hold the country's reins and take over the Tory leadership. Former Tata chairman Cyrus Mistry killed in a tragic road accident on the Ahmedabad-Mumbai highway a day after Union Minister Roads, Transport and Highway Nitin Gadkari urges automakers to include airbags in every vehicle. Lingayat seer Shivamurthy accused of raping minors denied bail. Another Lingayat seer in Belgavi accused of sexual assault dies by suicide. Indian cricketer Rajdeep Singh trolled by handles both in India and Pakistan for dropping a catch. Sources claim a Pakistan army media cell is behind the Khalistan tag on the cricketer's Wikipedia page. The iconic Rajpath and Central Vista lawns to be renamed as Kartavya Path. Centre says move to shed colonial baggage in the country. Amit Shah sets Mission 150 target for the municipal elections in Mumbai, urges BJP workers to expose Uddhav Thackeray's treachery on his first visit to the city since the government was formed. Nitish Kumar meets Rahul Gandhi in Delhi, sparks of suggestions of an opposition coalition, first meeting between the two since Nitish walked out of the NDA. Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren's government wins a trust vote in the Assembly. Governor remains silent 7 days after EC recommendation to disqualify Soren as MLA over an alleged illegal mining case.
One night of rain and Bengaluru is on its knees. India's Silicon Valley underwater. Boats and tractors to the rescue. Lost lakes haunt Garden City. Crores down the drain. Who will reboot the IT city?
That's right. Our top story tonight is of a city that could be any other in the country. Only this is supposed to be India's IT capital. Instead, it's looking more and more like India's boat capital. That's right. The sinking city of Bengaluru witnessed its worst nightmare over the last 24 hours. The Karnataka's capital on its knees after few hours of record-breaking rains overnight. Vast parts of the city waterlogged. Some parts won't be getting drinking water supply for 2 days, others facing power cuts. Tonight, we have a report that could, as I said, could be any part of the country. Only this was supposed to be the smart IT city that would lead India into the 21st century. Why is Bengaluru India's sinking city? It's our top focus tonight.
Streets turn rivers. Cars floating. Commuters struggling to get around. Massive traffic jams. Houses and schools inundated. Sprawling IT parks swamped. This is the reality that 1.3 crore Bengalurians had to face on Monday morning after record-breaking overnight rainfall of 131.6 mm. Spotlight was back on Bengaluru's poor infrastructure, leading to waterlogged streets, creating major traffic jams. Several lakes in the city were overflowing while stormwater drains were flooded. Low-lying areas bore the brunt, with water entering houses, temples and schools and affecting normal life.
This is a common scenario. In fact, last time also we had spoken to media and even minister, whoever came. But the situation is not going to change.
We request the government, the corporator or corporation or whoever it may be. See, they can put a pipeline and do this thing so that the water can go outlet and the people of residency, they can stay.
Tractors were used to ferry students, techies and office goers on Sarjapur Road.
Tractors which is shuttling the people from one end to the other end. They cannot take their regular vehicles. If you just see on the left-hand side, you can see the water. The HL parking area has been completely flooded. The vehicles which has been parked are parked in the flooded water. So far, the water has not receded, despite there were several efforts which have been made by the civic authorities.
A senior citizen was shifted to hospital in a boat since an ambulance could not reach his flooded Yemlur house. In many places, people could be seen pulling their cars and even buses out of water. Major IT and banking companies along the outer ring road corridor were completely flooded. Even the assembly complex Vidhan Sauda was flooded with water entering its cafeteria.
ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಮಳೆ ಆದ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾದೇವಪುರ ಮತ್ತು ಬೊಮ್ಮನಹಳ್ಳಿ ಝೋನಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ರಸ್ತೆಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ನೀರು ನಿಂತಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಡ್ರೈನ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ಆದೇಶವನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ.
Adding to the woes, Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board pumping station in TK Halli was inundated. As repair works are going on, drinking water supplies could be shut for around 50 areas in Bengaluru for the next 2 days. With Sageraj in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
Why is Bengaluru sinking? Who is to blame for the mess in Bengaluru and across all our cities every monsoon? Who will reboot India's IT city? Some of the questions we're going to raise tonight, relevant for anyone living in any metropolis suffering waterlogging. Srinivas Alavalli is head civic participation at the Janagra Center for Citizenship and Democracy. Nitya Ramakrishnan, member Whitefield Rising. Remember, Whitefield is one of the more upscale areas of Bengaluru. Harish Bijur, brand guru, founder Harish Bijur Consultants. Anand Gurumurthy is BJP spokesperson. Aishwarya Mahadev is Congress spokesperson. Appreciate all of you joining us. Before I come to the Netas, let's come to the citizens of Bengaluru. You, Srinivas, give us a sense. What is your immediate reaction on what's happened in Bengaluru in the last 24 hours? Inevitable, anger, rage at what's happened, or just frustration?
None of the above. It's more of the same, Rajdeep. I remember during the 2018 assembly elections, you did a show with us, the citizens of Bengaluru, by the side of the Bengaluru lake, which was frothing at the time. So we have seen all of these things. You've seen it here with us. What occurs to me is that nobody is going to pay a political price for it. This has happened before. This happened in every other city, major city of India, and nobody ever seemed to pay any political price for it. So I am pretty sure that there isn't going to be any major change, because neither the PM nor the CM nor MLAs or MPs, none of them are going to lose their seat on account of things like this.
So you're saying nothing has changed? You're saying to me nothing has changed from the time we met in 2018 when the lakes were overflowing to now in 2022. If anything, it seems to have got worse, because in 2017, an ISC study said Bengaluru floods because 78% of it is now concrete. So you're telling me it's got worse?
It got worse. More drains got encroached. There are efforts underway to clear the drains and reclaim the drain space. We must acknowledge that good work is happening, but too little, too late. In the meanwhile, we need to give space for while we have to get those years of neglect and years of unplanned rapid urbanization. The effects of it cannot be erased in a year or two. So it takes time. But in the meanwhile, the climate change and the cloud burst, it must be acknowledged that the amount of rain that we are seeing is unprecedented. There's a huge amount of rain that is falling, and without giving any break for any civic agencies, my heart goes out to all the engineers and the police and everyone trying to help the situation. But when there is no break, how do you repair things?
Sure.
There is not even a time for that. So this is a long term coming, and it's going to take a long term fixing as well.
Nitya Ramakrishnan, member Whitefield Rising, give us a sense of how the day went today for people like you or people around you. You know, in this city which was built up as the IT capital, once a pensioner's paradise, what happened today?
See, as usual, people reach out to us all the time because they think we as a citizen platform have some ability to reach out and help them. And we have been getting videos and messages and calls for help from all over the area that we are in, Mahadevpura, which is a very sizable area. However, none of this is actually a surprise for us. While it's national news right now because of the unseasonal volume of rain and really large-scale damage across the city and large-scale trouble across the city, places like Mahadevpura have been actually seeing unprecedented growth in terms of construction, etc. And therefore, flooding is not uncommon to us. There are streets over here where you will have to check Google Maps before you step out, even if there's a very slight amount of rain. Forget the volume of rain that is happening right now. And for us, it was coming. Construction, whether legal or illegal, over things that should not be constructed on, has been par for the course here. And citizens and residents all over the place that have been seeking and reporting and requesting the government to do something about it have really not seen any results or response. So as Srinivas said, too little, too late. Certainly, something is better than nothing, but it comes down to only one thing, Rajdeep. Where is the accountability? And the accountability is not in the political system, unfortunately. Honestly, it's the bureaucracy. They run the city. They are accountable for what is happening today, whether it's the traffic or the water, both of which don't flow in Bangalore.
They will turn around and, of course, tell me that there's a nexus between corporators and the bureaucrats and indeed local civic officials. We'll come to accountability in a moment. Harish Bijur, though, it was branded at the turn of the century as IT capital. It still has some of the best IT brands in the country, and yet as the IT sector itself has suffered in terms of waterlogging in and around it. So, how do you see the fact that India's IT capital will now be branded as India's sinking city?
Well, you're right, Rajdeep. I think, we have secured a very negative image with all the rain and everything that's happened. I keep saying I'm not so concerned about the image of Bengaluru city as much as the problems the common man on the street are going through. And these have been tough times. So the rains have come. And I think, what's really happened is a city of lakes will always be a city of lakes. So if you have gone and built where a lake must be, water has a memory, water will go right there and flood the basements. And that's precisely what's happened. Big cities are greedy cities, and Bengaluru is as greedy as any other city. And I think we've gone and built in places we mustn't build. So I think, these are tough days. But, I think Bengaluru is having a heart attack today, and it needs an intervention. We must not get into a stroke situation, a paralysis in the future, and we mustn't forget these rain days. And that's exactly what happens. A set of rains happen, Bengaluru gets flooded, and once again, we forget it all till the next time the same happens.
Who's going to give the bypass is the question that the politicians must answer. Aishwarya Madhav, you want to go first, the opposition? Who's going to give this city a bypass? Because let's be honest, it's not as if these problems started only in 2018. I was there before the last elections. That was the major concern of all the citizens. Even there was a Congress government there. So let's be clear, when accountability is there, the problem is every government seems to be linked with the contractor Raj and civic official like Mumbai. You've got this nexus where the municipal corporation has been seen to loot a city using the contractors and the real estate mafia. Construction everywhere. 78% plus is constructed today in Bangalore.
Good evening, Rajdeep. I think first and foremost, there's one thing about Bangaloreans where, we all say Swalpa, just muddy, and a lot of our citizens are very okay with being fine with a lot of the problems that they have. But this is one of the first few times I have seen massive furor over what has happened. And I think, honestly, accountability comes when there's enough outrage. And I may be a political representative, but I also feel accountability comes when there's enough outrage that will translate negatively for a government or a dispensation. And I think that is what is happening today. And, Rajdeep, Bangalore as a city, I think, is the victim of extremely sad, unscientific urban sprawl that nobody's been able to fix. You saw the IT companies coming in, you saw the logistics come in, you saw that, add that to the boom of real estate and unplanned development, and this is what we have today. So who's going to bell the cat is what somebody is going to ask now. And I think looking at the sort of response of the people and the citizenry and the absolute misery, Rajdeep, I think this is about time that everybody is going to push through with political will. Maybe I'm hopeful.
Aishwarya, you're a Bengalurian. I'm a Mumbaikar. I saw what happened in Mumbai after 2005. It was an unusual cloudburst. Mumbaikars were also angry, but 17 years later, it's not as if the city has dramatically changed. We still have Mumbai's vulnerable areas being concretized. So that fear is there. The anger will die out. My fear is 1 week from now, will the anger sustain enough? You've got an election there in 7 months' time. I just wonder how people will look at it. The fact is Congress, BJP, both of you have ruled the municipal corporation and none of you have really transformed the city.
Rajdeep, I think in a larger extent, what exactly has to happen now, and I want to highlight this, is because these rains have been happening for a lot of years. It is massive lack of preparedness, whether it's the BBMP, which is equal part of both both political parties, I cannot deny it. But Rajdeep, one thing I would really like to highlight on your show that, you spoke about the CM talking about compensation for the commercial organizations of Outer Ring Road. And the incongruity of my city is while you have these big beacons in the sky right next door are underserved migrant colonies or even slums. And while the government may contemplate compensation for the companies, these people have lost their entire livelihoods, more than 1,800 families in Bengaluru and adjoining areas. And, hopefully the government will realize that lack of preparedness for some people may be fiscal loss. But for a lot of people in this city, which is built on the backs of a lot of migrants and, underserved communities, they've lost their entire livelihood. And I really hope that the government will come out and be proactive in helping them as well, as much as they are about the IT corridor companies, Rajdeep.
But it also comes down to the fact about just how a city sort of goes out of control. Anand, the fact is that the city's civic body made a list of 2,626 buildings that had encroached stormwater drains in 2016. 1,480 were demolished. However, now you've got the fact that that drive got discontinued. Several of these buildings, because they were managed by influential political power brokers and civic officials, they still exist. So you can, unless you're willing to walk the talk and ensure that all illegal constructions are stopped, how are you going to really fix any kind of problem that Bengaluru has, Anand?
Yes. With respect to rains, Bangalore is full of hills and valleys. rainwater doesn't stand here; it just flows away. And we all know that there are a lot of obstructions to the Raj Kalways. As you gave the numbers, Rajdeep, thanks for the numbers. So you have clearly told what stands between Bengaluru and this waterlogging. So that has to be done, and it will be taken care of. The committee with the cabinet committee and the CM, everybody has met today, and they have taken clear stand on this.
No, but did it require a disaster like this for the city to wake up? I mean, that's the worry. You see, with the civic authorities the way they are, it seems to require a disaster and then the wake up comes.
This is not a reactive thing that I'm telling. See, there are certain things that happened in 2016. The demolition drive was stopped only after some middle class, family buildings were destroyed. After that, it stopped. That was the Congress government under Siddaramaiah. Then they stopped it because of the influential people who were backing their government. Okay, and after that, there were certain court cases that went through, and there were certain issues that cropped up. Now things are going to be, ironed out in the coming days. And it's not about being reactive or anything. It's just following the rules and the regulations and other things that has to be taken care of, and then it has to be done. And then one more thing I want to tell India Today team. Have taken very good footage wherein the overall problem, especially the ring road problem that we are seeing, wherever the metro is getting constructed and other places, we are seeing that a bed has been created, a dry bed has been created for the construction activity, which is causing some issues. That also our engineers have noted, and that will be taken care of in the coming days, so that there is water movement on either side. If you observe the footage that you're beaming now, there's a dry bed in between, which is not letting the water go this side, that side. That will be taken care of. So these are some of the things. Small things are also being discussed.
The only thing, as I said, it requires often a disaster for politicians to wake up. Yes, Aishwarya, you want to make a quick response?
Rajdeep, when he talks about what happened in 2016, what happened with Mr. Siddaramaiah, I could go back to Yediyurappa's time of denotification, but let's talk about the past 3 years. Look at how much they have allocated. Even in their manifesto, they promised a unique, a separate branch for Bangalore itself and its infrastructure, 10,000 plus crores. How much have they invested in whether roads or stormwater drains, or even having proper sewerage supply, or even rehousing people who live at lower or areas of risk of inundation? How much have they done for below poverty line families that live at the worst, the most, unhygienic areas? And how much have they pumped into the BBMP to try and improve any of the civic areas? And I think it's unprecedentedly low. And with the government being mired in corruption, I think what sort of civil worker wants to sit and do any tendering for your roads when he has to pay more than 40% into the coffers of the BJP? And that is the reality today.
You said 40%. 5 years ago, I was told 10%. Only the volume seemed to increase. Just let me get in some citizens for final remarks. Srinivas, you want to first go? If there was one solution, where would you start, Srinivas?
I just want to make a point here.
At the beginning of the show, you talked about many cities having these problems. You recounted your Mumbai experience from 2005. We all remember what happened in Chennai. It happens in Ahmedabad. It happened in Gurugram, Kolkata. There is no city in India that hasn't experienced urban floods. Bengaluru happens to be the latest in the long list of annual ritual called urban flooding, and if you Google any city name with a boat or a flood on it, you are going to get pictures of boats in the middle of our cities. This is something that we must all understand, and then we should understand where is this coming from. It's not Congress, it's not BJP, it's nobody that is currently running the government. It is the fundamental lack of city governance in our country. We don't have a evolved system to govern the city. We keep talking about the CM. What did the CM do? What did the PM do? The CM is an MLA from a city which is 400 kilometers from Bengaluru. What happens in Bengaluru does not affect his or her political, quotient or whatever happens to the future of the government in the next assembly elections. So the accountability has to be fixed at the city level, and that needs to be city government. The city government is in Bengaluru, it is called the BBMP. In Mumbai, it is the BMC. And these are the bodies that are not empowered, that do not have funds, that do not have powers. We did not have an election for our city government for 2 years. Today, there are no corporators. There is no mayor. It's always the CM. If there is another flood in Hubli and another flood in Mysore, how many cities is the chief minister going to run around and fix? It's just not possible.
The 2022-23 fiscal for BBMP was 10,484, out of which 46% of the expenditure was for public works. Now, these are not it's not that there isn't the, it's not, it's also your will to use that money in the way
it's very small money.
It's small money.
The amount of GST paid by Bengaluru is in a lakh of crore. Is a very high amount of money that Bengaluru as a city pays into the country, into the coffers of government of India.
No, but
India and Karnataka gets very little back into the city. This is also the truth.
No,
we are
this is
dependent
the
on
truth.
grants.
This is the truth of every Indian city. This is true of Mumbai, which will say exactly
and that's
the
what
same.
we need to fix.
Okay.
Except for Mumbai. So you ask me what is the solution? The solution is empowering the city government. The mayors, we should be able to recall the mayors of our cities just like you could recall the mayor of New York and London. Who knows the mayor of Bengaluru? Less than 13% know the name of the Bengaluru, while 98% know the name of the Prime Minister in our city. To me, this is the root cause.
Okay.
The moment we elevate the degree of city governance to any other evolved democracy where people vote for mayors and mayors are accountable for the actions in the next upcoming elections, the city government would fall when things like this happen.
Okay.
Right now, if there is an election, nobody is going to take the blame for it. Everybody will point a finger at others and people are going to vote on the basis of hijab and something else and textbook row and various other factors that the politicians create to distract people from the real issues of the city. So this cycle we all know and we are sick and tired of it and we are cynical about it, but we are hoping that through people like you and through media, people realize that what we need is more stronger city governments and systems that run the city. When we build those, all cities will resilient. And I think like in the 1991 crisis, India came out of it at the brink of the collapse or the payments crisis. We came up with the new solutions. Maybe these images, these conversations will lead to converting these crises into an opportunity to reform our cities, because at the end of the day, Rajdeep, all our cities are our economic engines. We need these engines to fire on all cylinders. We cannot afford to let these cities go down. And
I think you made a good analogy with 1991, because often in India you need shock treatment to get the system to change. It's not enough to have nice slogans like smart cities. Cities need to be fundamentally changed in terms of their governance patterns. When you don't have the kind of governance patterns that you need, then cities will collapse. Today it is Bengaluru. Only a few years ago, every year it is some city or the other. It was Chennai, it's been Mumbai. All of these cities have sorely lacked urban governance, empowered urban governance, where we can hold people accountable. I want to leave it there at this moment because we've got lots of news to go through today, but I appreciate my guest joining us. I hope those visuals will at least shock the system into some kind of action in Bengaluru. Let's turn from there to our other big story, because Mumbai is in shock a day after business tycoon Cyrus Mistry was killed in a car crash on the Ahmedabad-Mumbai highway. The former Tata Sons chairman was returning from the Parsi shrine of Udwada in Gujarat when the accident took place. What exactly happened? Well, take a look.
A high-speed car crash that has left India in shock. New CCTV footage has emerged that shows the Mercedes SUV business tycoon Cyrus Mistry was travelling in, moving towards a checkpoint minutes before the fatal accident on the bridge on Surya River. Cyrus Mistry, Jahangir Pandole, Dr. Anahita Pandole and her husband Darius Pandole were travelling from Udwada to Mumbai on Sunday when the mishap took place near Charoti village in Palghar district of Maharashtra. While Cyrus Mistry and Jahangir Pandole died, Anahita and Darius are battling for their lives. Their SUV that was speeding apparently spun out of control and rammed the bridge's concrete railing.
आवाज आया खड़ा करके, तो देखा वो जाके उधर जाके उठ के उधर से देखा तो गाड़ी उधर डिवा वाटर को टक्कर मार के खड़ी है। तो जाके देखा तो पीछे के दो आदमी बेहोश पड़े थे और आगे का उसमें जान थी तो थोड़ी हिला रहे थे वो लोग।
Let me just take you back to the spot. This is exactly where the Mercedes crashed. The airbags blew up, and the intensity with which all four of them flew out of the car can be described by the fact that when Dr. Anahita Pandole was found lying on the floor on the road out here, her head was resting on the seat So you can imagine the impact and the damage the seat and the overall car must have taken.
The 3-lane road in the direction of Mumbai splits into 2 parallel bridges over Surya River near Charoti. Experts say for drivers who are not regular on this route, this split can take them by surprise.
It is a case of overspeeding, and it's a case of people missing the sudden configuration change in the road from a 3-lane to a 2-lane. If the person was wearing seat belt, the couple of people, the 2 people who are sitting at the rear, they could have been saved with some serious injuries.
आप देख रहे हो जहाँ पे मैं खड़ा हूँ, यहाँ से दुर्घटना का स्पॉट 100-150 मीटर दूर है, पीछे है मेरे। यहाँ सूचना होनी चाहिए थी। यहाँ पे आगे की लेन 2 लेन हो रही है, ऐसी कोई सूचना का कोई भी बोर्ड आज भी नहीं लगा है, पहले भी नहीं था। मेरे पीछे जो ब्लिंकर चमक रहा है पीले कलर का, फ्लैश हो रही है लाइट, वो भी कल तक बंद थी, रातों रात चालू की गई है।
Gynecologist Dr. Anahita Pandole and her husband Darius Pandole, who survived the crash, were brought by road to HN Reliance Foundation Hospital in Mumbai on Monday. The autopsies of Cyrus Mistry and Jahangir Pandole have been completed at JJ Hospital. Doctors said that multiple injuries were found on Mistry, including those to head and spinal curve. The horrific accident has put the spotlight on road design of national highways in India. With Dev Amish Kotak, Bureau Report, India Today.
My first guest at the moment is Hormuz Sorabji, editor Autocar India, who also knows the Pandoles and the Mistries. Appreciate you joining us, Hormuz. Never easy to talk about people that we know. Darius was junior to me in school. I've known him for years as well. Your first sense, seeing the pictures, what went wrong and what are the lessons in a way that one can learn from this?
I mean, it's really tragic and, to be honest, in many ways, quite unnecessary. I mean, my view is, people talk about overspeeding, but that's very relative. Your speed limit is 40, you can be doing 60, but looking at the car, I don't think the severity of impact actually was that strong, which again makes it so much more unfortunate what happened. Clearly, the structure of the car, the bonnet, the front windshield, all pretty much intact. I think clearly this is a case of, the primary restraint, which is the seatbelt, which, as per reports go, wasn't used at the back, which resulted in fatalities. And, I can't just stress enough how important that one safety device invented over 50 years ago, the simple 3-point safety belt is. It has, this just goes to show that it is the #1 safety device today, more than airbags, more than crumple zones, more than anything. And looking at it, it's even possible if they were properly restrained, all 4 would have walked out, without much injury. So really, the importance of the safety belt at the rear. I think it's important that, we ensure that there are certain protocols in place that make people use them. We kind of tend to miss, the woods for the trees and talk about 6 airbags and 8 airbags and crash zones and, try and force the technology. But at the end of the day, you need something simple like a rear seatbelt warning reminder, something that beeps so loudly that it just forces you to wear it. Obviously, you can't enforce everyone wearing a seatbelt. And I think this is something manufacturers should voluntarily put into their cars. They don't because it annoys passengers. We have a habit of not wearing seatbelts at the back. It's a fact. Let's be honest, Rajdeep, do you always wear a seatbelt at the back?
I never do. I must confess that was,
exactly.
This has shaken me.
I never did until about 10 years ago. But then, you just start getting into the habit. And once you don't have it on, you feel a little strange.
Right.
But very often when you take a cab somewhere, you've got a seat cover, which covers the seat belt buckle. So, I think we just have to have this consciousness of wearing the seatbelt. It won't come. But I think something like they've legislated, the way they've legislated front seat belts, which is compulsory and have warnings, you just got to move that at the back. we have a high incidence or a high percentage of chauffeur-driven population. I mean, it's we can all afford. A lot of people can afford chauffeurs. A lot of people sit at the back, and I think that's the place which is ignored the most.
Would it have helped? Anaita was self-driving the car. Would it have helped if? Do you believe that they, on these highways, you suddenly come across a bridge. If you haven't driven on that highway ever, it can be a risk speeding. Is that also a concern apart from seat belts being tied at the back? That had it been a chauffeur, would they have been better off? I'm just asking this as a concern.
Well, it's hard to say, and one can only speculate. But what I do know is, I think Anaita is a good driver. I know her personally. We've driven to Mahabaleshwar many times. I think she's not reckless. Of course, you can get caught out. You need a lot of experience. In fact, we just drove from Kashmir to Kanyakumari in an electric Porsche. And that stretch was one of the most treacherous we encountered in 4,000 kilometers. It's full of potholes.
This is the Mumbai-Ahmedabad stretch.
Yes, just coming into, crossing the border, so getting into Maharashtra, just absolutely awful. And, finally, Rajdeep, it boils down to experience, as you rightly said. There is no substitute for having experience, because the more you drive, you build a library of events in your head. And, that's why, for us, my wife doesn't like it, but I drive at night, I drive in fog, I drive in every way just to keep my driver rating up to experience every kind of possible situation, because that's when you build a library of events in your head. And that's really the philosophy behind autonomous driving. Why it's taking so long? Computers have not built that library of every possible scenario to kind of avoid a crash. And in India, that's what it is. It's experience, because after that, you tend to be intuitive and you know what the guy in front of you is going to do. You've got to read his mind. You've got to know that, he's going to make some sudden move. Perhaps, that was not factored in. So, it may not even have been a case of risky or reckless driving. It could be that to avoid a pothole, which is very common today, truck drivers or someone just moves left, right, it pushes you on one side. Hard to speculate. I don't know. But what I do know is rear seat belts, super important, and pathetic road conditions. They are the biggest killers today, along with speed.
And you also said that Anaita, and you've driven with her, was not a reckless driver. So that may not, it would be unfair in that sense to suggest that the car was being driven recklessly. More likely, as you said, possibly.
I don't know the conditions in which it was being driven, to be honest. I'm stating a kind of, just knowing her, and, we've driven to Mahabaleshwar. We followed each other once, and, she wasn't going crazy on that stretch.
Let me leave it there, Hormaz. I think some of the points you've raised, I hope somebody out there in the auto industry is listening. I appreciate your joining me here on the news today. Just make sure that seat belt is there even when you're on the back seat of the car. Let me turn from there to Cyrus Mistry, the person. In fact, the Pandols and the Mistrys are families who have a huge connect with the city of Mumbai. Joining me now is former brand custodian of Tata Sons, Mukund Rajan, who worked very closely with Cyrus Mistry when he was chairperson at Tata's. Appreciate you joining me, Mukund. I know it's a difficult time for you and all those who knew Cyrus well. Your first thoughts and memories of Cyrus Mistry as you knew him.
So Cyrus was a wonderful human being. I think very, very decent person, amiable. One remembers him always smiling. Many of the photographs that have come out in the newspapers also reflect that aspect of his personality. Somebody that is extremely personable, thorough gentleman, and at the same time, an extremely shrewd business person. He had one of the finest financial minds I'd ever encountered, extremely well-read. He knew things and had seen trends that we were just beginning to wake up to. He would give us books to read to improve our own knowledge and understanding of spaces and sectors. So really, he was such an all-round individual with so many facets. And particularly in the business world, to have somebody like him with his innate curiosity about issues, his knowledge, his interest in technology, I felt for the Tatas, he was the ideal chairperson, somebody to succeed Ratan Tata with the right age profile and the right interest in the wide variety of sectors a group like Tata's was responsible for running. So huge loss, I think, for the corporate sector as a whole in India today.
I'll come to the Ratan Tata Cyrus Mistry connect or disconnect in a moment, but Mukund Rajan, you said you, as someone who knew him well, Cyrus was seen by his friends to be very low profile, didn't like the media arc-lights, I'm told wanted to spend most of his time with family, friends. Is that how you would remember Cyrus, as someone who zealously also guarded his privacy even after becoming chairperson at Tata Sons?
He guarded his family's privacy extremely closely. I remember once when a media publication ran a photo of his son with his first car. He was very upset that the family's privacy was being invaded and had me speak to the editor to request that the family be off limits. Personally, I think he had a different reason for not wanting to be projected. He was always concerned that people may misunderstand his appearance in media as self-promotion. And he wanted his work to speak for itself. He didn't want anyone to feel that he was out there basking in the limelight and presenting himself as some kind of great manager. He wanted his work to do the talking. And he insisted that the CEOs, his team, and others therefore take the responsibility of engaging with the media, which personally I thought was a mistake, because later it, in some respects, backfired, because I don't think very many people knew the remarkable initiatives he had taken at the Tatas and the work that he had done to really set the group on a very strong platform, the benefits of which the group has really harnessed in recent years as well. But that's obviously something that is now in the past, unfortunately.
You know, you mentioned that you think he was the right person to become the Tata chairman at the right age, and yet it all went so horribly wrong between him and Ratan Tata. Do you think it left him deeply scarred, the manner in which he had to eventually, was forced out of the company, Ratan Tata returning, that entire period from 2012 to 2016 did have a deep scar on Cyrus Mistry?
Oh, definitely it would have. He was very disappointed with the turn of events. He was very disappointed with the inaction of many of the stalwarts from the Tatas who would privately say one thing but be very quiet in public. It became essentially a battle between him and his predecessor. And he just felt it played out in absolutely the worst possible way for the group, certainly, for himself, obviously. And it was something that the next few years he had to spend in court, trying to redeem his name, his reputation, and try and get stakeholders to understand that there had been points of view and reasons why he had to do what he had done, and to get acceptance for his perspective. And I think right till the end, he wanted to ensure that in that sense, his name was cleared and people understood the efforts he had made to do the right thing for the Tatas.
One final word, you know, in hindsight, some will say he took on the Tata chairmanship too early. He certainly died tragically too early in his early 50s. He will be remembered by many as someone who wanted to bring change in the Tatas, then went back after he was ousted back to Shapurji Palanji, the original company that he's, the family company, helped rescue the company in bad times. You know, how do you see, for you, Cyrus Mistry, the business person and the human being behind the face we saw?
Correct. And therefore his loss would be felt there as well. He was also becoming a bit of a venture capitalist himself, and therefore all the fresh ideas and new thinking, the country will be the poorer for losing him at this stage.
One final word, something that you would best remember, Cyrus Mistry, that reveals the person behind the face, the human side that people often tell me about?
He had a very nice sense of humor. He could laugh at himself, he could laugh at others, he enjoyed a good joke. And that's why I say that image of him smiling, he really had very little to hide. He was a genuine individual, very open, very transparent, and a very keen and good judge of character at the same time. And so really, one keeps thinking about that image of him with that big smile on his face. And that's something we're all going to miss deeply.
Mukund Rajan, former brand custodian at Tata's, I appreciate your joining us, sharing your memories and thoughts of Cyrus Mistry, the person. Let's turn from there to the other big story today. Liz Truss is the new Prime Minister of United Kingdom, the country's third woman Prime Minister. She trumped ex-Chancellor Rishi Sunak by a wide margin of over 20,000 votes within the Conservative vote bank and has taken over as United Kingdom's Prime Minister. Take a look.
My friends, I know that we will deliver, we will deliver, we will deliver.
Rishi Sunak has lost the race to marry Elizabeth Truss. The Foreign Secretary in the Boris Johnson government will be the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
I give notice that Liz Truss is elected as the leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party.
The Conservative Party's new leader will be UK's third female Prime Minister. In the race to 10 Downing Street, Liz Truss beat former Chancellor Rishi Sunak comfortably. Truss garnered 57% of the Conservative Party members' votes, gaining an edge of over 20,000 votes to beat her rival Sunak.
I'd like to pay tribute to my fellow candidates, particularly Rishi Sunak. It's been a hard-fought campaign. I think we have shown the depth and breadth of talent in our Conservative Party.
Promising to unite a split Conservative Party, Truss formed her campaign with a promise to cut taxes and grow the economy.
My friends, we need to show that we will deliver over the next 2 years. I will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow our economy. I will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply.
With Truss's victory, Boris Johnson will finally make his way out. The new UK Prime Minister will take charge of a country grappling with a severe cost of living crisis. Now all eyes will be on whether Truss will walk the talk. Bureau Report, India Today.
It's Truss, not Truce. I've got my pronunciation slowly but surely right. Okay, up next is our good news today story. It comes from Hisar in Haryana. We'll tell you more on the other side. You're watching the news today. News without the noise.
राज, वेल्थ मल्टीप्लाई कैसे करते हो?
Hey, I noticed something new. You've started using a new body lotion. Funny.
So sorry for the delay. I was on another call. It just kept going on.
No, Papa. You have been a steam bath. Steam bath? At home? 2 steam bath he takes.
Go to your homework.
It's 7:20 already. The kickoff's in 5 minutes. Get all the boys. We have the entire place to ourselves, man. Not working?
Of course it is. But I don't want you guys to be using this bathroom. So use the other one.
So sorry for the delay. I was on another call. It just kept going on.
No, Papa. You have been a steam bath. Steam bath? At home? 2 steam bath he takes.
Go to your homework.
Hey, I noticed something new. You started using a new body lotion. Funny.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
Drop catch in the 18th over, and social media just exploded with criticism. The word Khalistan started trending. India Today now gets you the inside details of Pakistan's role in trending Khalistan with an Indian cricketer. Pakistan's disinformation deceit is our top focus on India First at 10 p.m. tonight, only on India Today.
Okay, let's end with some more hopeful, positive news. Our good news today's story comes from a government school in Haryana's Hisar that has adopted innovative and creative ways of learning. Emphasizing on learning by doing, the school has set up a laboratory using recycled material to teach complex issues. What Haryana does today, maybe the rest of the country needs to follow tomorrow. For now, you stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubh Ratri, Jai Hind, Namaskar. Our good news today's story. Bye for now.
Making learning easy, teaching complex topics through practical exercises. A government school in Haryana's Hisar is doing bold experiments in making learning an enjoyable experience for its students. The school in Kharkhara village has set up a laboratory using waste materials. Students of this school get to learn about solar systems, instruments used to measure rainfall, solar and lunar eclipses, etc. using these models in the lab.
लगभग बच्चे लाइब्रेरी में रहते हैं, अच्छा सीखते हैं उससे। जो मैंने ऑब्जर्व किया बच्चों से बहुत ही बढ़िया है। अध्यापक बहुत ही मेहनती है हमारे।
Rajkumar, a primary teacher, is the brain behind this laboratory. He has also prepared a 3D map of India that helps students in geography. For Rajkumar, lack of resources came as a blessing in disguise.
इस लैब को लगभग 6 वर्ष हो गए यहाँ स्थापित किए और हमने सर अनुभव किया है कि जो बच्चे पाठ्य पुस्तकों से इतना नहीं सीख पाते वो यहाँ जब प्रैक्टिकल करके देखते हैं उन चीज़ों के बारे में उनकी ज़्यादा रुचि होती है। कुछ यहाँ उनको नया सीखने को मिलता है सर किताब से हटकर, तो इसमें ज़्यादा रुचि लेते हैं और हमारा भी काम सर अध्यापन का कार्य जो है वो आसान हो रहा है और बच्चा समझ के साथ सीख रहा है सर।
To teach complex topics related to maths and science, more than 100 such models have been prepared in this laboratory.
हमें यहाँ बहुत सी चीज़ें सीखने को मिलती है। हमें यहाँ सूर्य के बारे में, पृथ्वी के बारे में और शरीर के अंगों हमारा लैब बहुत ही अच्छा है। यहाँ
प्रयोगशाला में आने के बाद पढ़ाई में बहुत आसानी होती है क्योंकि यहाँ के टीचर बहुत अच्छे से समझाते हैं और हमें पढ़ाई करने में बहुत मज़ा आता है यहाँ पे।
While government schools across the country are failing to provide basic amenities, this school of Haryana is setting an example. Bureau Report, India Today.
I don't read the news. I read between the lines to tell you the true version of events, the true story of our times.
To document grief, the toughest assignment for any journalist to be
from those who matter,
Women politicians going to stick up for each other.
of those who should matter. I document the truth. I don't distort the truth. I don't glamorize the truth. I don't gloss over the truth. The ghosts of India's contentious medieval history have come knocking again. I hustle for the truth, on the ground, in the newsroom, in the studio. I don't try to grab eyeballs.
I inform you to make you see the point.
To the Point with Preeti Chaudhary. At these times, only on India Today. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
Drop catch in the 18th over, and social media just exploded with criticism. The word Khalistan started trending. India Today now gets you the inside details of Pakistan's role in trending Khalistan with an Indian cricketer. Pakistan's disinformation deceit is our top focus on India First at 10 p.m. tonight, only on India Today.
In association with Bharti AXA Life Insurance. Do the smart thing. Hetic Fittings. Make your furniture work beautifully. LIC. हर पल आपके साथ.
Again. That's up in the air. Simple catch. He's put it down.
The drop catch in the India-Pakistan match.
He's put it down.
There was a tsunami of reactions online. There was shock and dismay with Khalistan trending. An India Today special investigation exposes Pakistan. Pakistan-based Twitter handles spewed venom online. Pakistani handles link Khalistan to the Indian cricketer. Pak caught red-handed, changing the cricketer's Wikipedia profile. Pakistan's disinformation deceit is our top focus on India First.
Cricket is a gentleman's game, but not when the other team is Pakistan. They lack sportsman spirit, and Pakistan Army is up to no good using even a gentleman's game for its ungentlemanly tricks. Pakistan's digital footprint and fingerprint is all over this disinformation tsunami unleashed after Arshpreet Singh dropped a catch. Twitter handles in Pakistan started trending Khalistan. The tragedy is Pakistan's useful idiots in India picked it up and peddled Pakistan's agenda. We'll get you details. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We'll get you forensic evidence. As always, let's get started with the headlines on India First. Streets flooded, cars washed away, boats on the road. Flood waters expose Bengaluru's civic mess. Drinking water supply hit in large parts of the city. Former Tata chairman Cyrus Mistry killed in a tragic road accident on the Ahmedabad-Mumbai highway. Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways Nitin Gadkari urges automobile manufacturers to include airbags in every vehicle. Lingayat seer Shivamurthy, accused of raping minors, denied bail. Another Lingayat seer in Belgavi, accused of sexual assault, dies by suicide. The iconic Rajpath and Central Vista lawns, renamed Kartavyapath Center, says move to shed colonial baggage in the country. Liz Truss defeats Rishi Sunak to become UK Prime Minister, third woman PM to hold UK's reins and take over Tory leadership. The tweets linking young Indian cricketer Rajdeep Singh to Khalistan started from Pakistan. Not only was the tweet storm unleashed on Twitter, but an IP address used by Pakistan Army in the UAE was used to change Arshdeep's Wikipedia profile and replace the word India with Khalistan. India Today's open source intelligence team gets you our top story exposing Pakistan's disinformation deceit.
Begin again. That's up in the air. Simple catch. Oh, he's put it down.
The drop catch in the 18th over led to a tweet storm on social media. A bright young Indian cricketer, Rajdeep Singh, was vilified by some with hashtag Khalistan going viral.
and initial scrutiny has revealed the tweet storm was initiated in Pakistan and followed almost immediately by certain suspect handles in the United States. Take, for example, this tweet by a handle with over 57,000 followers identifying itself as a supporter of the Pakistan Army and Imran Khan from Bahawalpur in Pakistan's Punjab province. Minutes after the drop catch, the tweet was Khalistan Zindabad with the trending hashtag India versus Pakistan 2022. And this handle, Osama, calling himself a social media influencer with over 26,000 followers in Pakistan. The handle tweeted about the Indian cricketer saying he would have to support Khalistan and couldn't go back to India.
IP एड्रेसेस क्लियर कट मिले हैं, क्लियर एविडेंसेस हैं कि पाकिस्तान का इसमें इन्वॉल्वमेंट है।